Hi guys, I thought following some of the major gaffes by his supporters, Robert Jenrick would have abandoned his candidacy for the leader of the Conservative Party, but I was wrong. Here he was appearing on The Breakfast Show where he once again banged the drum to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. He claimed that Britain isn't sovereign, even though Parliament has confirmed that it is, and he said that the reason why people weren't being sent to Rwanda is because of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is not true either. Have a listen to this.
We can't live in a country where our parliament and our courts aren't sovereign.
So are they sovereign or are they not sovereign? I thought leaving the EU was about bringing back sovereignty. So now it's actually Parliament is not sovereign, even though Parliament has confirmed that it is sovereign. So who's lying here? Parliament saying that they are sovereign, they have always been sovereign, or Robert Jenrick who's claiming that Parliament and the courts are not sovereign? But once again, we were told the UK needed to leave the EU to get its sovereignty back. So it seems it hasn't got its sovereignty back. So if it leaves the European Convention on Human Rights, Robert, will Britain get its sovereignty back? Or will it have to leave, I don't know, the United Nations? Will it have to leave the WTO? Will it have to leave a whole NATO? Will it have to leave all these organizations in order to get its sovereignty back? And when will it be sovereign? When it's like the North Korea of Europe or something?
And it's also stopping us controlling our borders. It was the principal reason why the Supreme Court at the end of last year said that we couldn't move forward with the Rwanda policy.
No, it was because Rwanda's not safe. They deemed it unsafe. It asked the government, Rishi Sunak and your government at the time, to prove that Rwanda was safe. And you couldn't prove it was safe. Instead, what you did was you legislated the idea that it was safe. But that didn't prove that it was safe. And also, it was not safe because there were people coming from Rwanda and were granted asylum from Rwanda. Very small numbers, but even if it was just one person, that would deem Rwanda unsafe. So, on the one hand, you were saying Rwanda is a safe country. The Supreme Court were saying, no, it's not. And you are allowing people to claim asylum from Rwanda, which means this is not a safe country.
Which would have made it easier for us to stop the small boats, secure our borders. And so I think we should leave, and we should replace it with a British Bill of Rights.
Now, a British Bill of Rights doesn't make any sense because the whole point of the European Court of Human Rights or the Convention on Human Rights is that there's an organization outside the state that protects people's human rights. Because who is going to trust their human rights? It doesn't matter if they're on the left or on the right, in the center. Who's going to trust their human rights with somebody like Robert Jenrick? Imagine Robert Jenrick is Prime Minister. Would you trust him with your human rights? Or would you prefer to have an organization beyond the UK that would protect your human rights? I think most people would go with the latter. And of course, he was challenged on the Good Friday Agreement, and he said, well, it doesn't really matter. We can have a British Bill of Rights. Yes, but what about if your government doesn't respect people's human rights in Northern Ireland? Where do they go then?
So there will be no diminution in us as British citizens' ability to protect our own rights and liberties, but it will be done by Britain, our Parliament, our courts. And that would enable us to fix these problems, get dangerous criminals and terrorists off our streets.
Your critics, including your opponent Kemi Badenoch, would say it's a headline-grabbing distraction, this stuff about the European Court of Human Rights, and it doesn't really have much relevance to people's everyday lives, and that's what the Conservatives should be looking at the moment. The people who are getting ready for work right now, ironing a shirt, thinking about a packed lunch and how they're going to afford their tea at the end of the day. Do you really appeal to them?
Look, the issues I've campaigned on in this leadership campaign are the NHS, how we can improve the quality of care that the public are getting, the economy, how can we get living standards up in this country, and yes, immigration. And in all parts of the country, however you voted at the last election, those tend to be the three most important issues to you. I do think millions of people want to see us secure our borders. This is going to be a problem that is with us for years to come. All Western countries are facing it. And I'm not prepared just to allow this country to be bedeviled by this issue of illegal migration for the rest of our lifetimes. And the only way to fix it is to get to the heart of the problem. And a part of that is our legal system and the human rights laws that we've had in recent years.
Did anyone actually hear Robert Jenrick talk about the economy? Did anyone ever hear him talk about the NHS? Like, I've been following this for some time, but I don't remember him talking about the economy or the NHS. And you notice here he mentioned, I mentioned the NHS and the economy, how we need to have a strong economy. But remember immigration. Don't forget immigration. That's all he has. He's like Reform UK, a one-trick pony. Immigration. That's all he talks about. He doesn't seem to understand it. Doesn't understand how, the European Convention on Human Rights works. He doesn't seem to understand that Rwanda is not a safe country. Doesn't understand how the Supreme Court works. Doesn't seem to understand a lot of things, even about his pet project, immigration. But that's all he has. He doesn't talk about the economy or the NHS because he thinks he can win support over from Reform UK voters. Win those people back. We lost them on immigration, let's win them back. But you're not going to win power if you're just focusing on immigration when it's not the priority. We saw in the recent election. The NHS and the economy, they are the priorities of the British people. Why are you talking about immigration all the time? And as was pointed out by the journalist, how is this going to help ordinary people? Leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, how's that going to help people who are worried about the cost of living crisis? It won't. It's not designed to. It's designed to pander to a small section of society, those who've abandoned the Tories and joined Reform UK. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.